So another F1 season has officially come and gone with another race in Abu Dhabi. And also coming into Abu Dhabi, I didn't know that Abu Dhabi actually now has the record for most season finales hosted in F1 history. Damn. Damn, when it comes to tradition, the tradition is easily Abu Dhabi is the finale. God damn. And they're the finale for a very long time for the foreseeable future after the most recent extension a few years ago. But yeah, another F1 season in the books. There was a championship to go down to Abu Dhabi. There was also a lot of storylines too. The last race for Lewis Hamilton at Mercedes, the last race for Carlos Sainz at Ferrari, potentially Sergio Perez's last race in F1, depending on what happens with the contract situation. There are a lot of reports saying he's going to be fired tomorrow morning after a pretty disappointing season in Red Bull, especially considering that his teammate won the fucking championship while Perez was struggling to even finish 10th in the majority of races this year. And effectively, one of the main reasons why Red Bull isn't winning their third straight Constructors title. A lot of storylines to come in, but of course the big one was the Constructors title with McLaren and Ferrari only separated by 21 points coming in. So McLaren just had to do the bare minimum to not let Ferrari gain too much. Ferrari needed a miracle to have any chance to win the Constructors title. Of course, there was a storyline coming in about Esteban Ocon after he was fired by Alpine after Qatar. So he was kicked out a race early. And his future in doubt, so he's most likely out of F1 again, this time probably for good. Also, potentially the last race for Kick Sauber, as of course they'll be rebranding to Audi. And of course, Matthias Binotto will be coming back as the team principal for Audi, so that'll be interesting to see. So yeah, a lot ends at Abu Dhabi, of course, with the end of the season, of course. But of course, some for the race, though, but Ferrari would get some help right off the bat, even though despite coming in, they were in a hole right to start with Charles Leclerc taking a grid penalty for a battery change after they had some issues in the battery component. But Leclerc was forced to start in the back of the field. And of course, Lewis Hamilton's last race with Mercedes got off to a rough start with him having to start all the way in 16th. He was out in Q1 at qualifying. Jesus fuck. But of course, as we all know in motorsports, it's not about where you start. It's about how you finish. And well, this race got off to quite an interesting start in turn 1 when Verstappen decided to full send it, and then he dumped himself and Oscar Piastri. And of course, like I said before, the FIA is getting fed up with Verstappen's bullshit. As Verstappen for that move on Piastri in turn 1, he gets a 10-second penalty. Beep! For causing a collision. And also on the first lap, Sergio Perez would then get dumped by Valtteri Bottas, and Perez will be forced to retire the car after lap 1. Checo, if you're trying to save your job at Red Bull for next season, this isn't the way to do it. This is how to guarantee that you're getting fired tomorrow morning. But of course, throughout majority of this race, it was really the Lando Norris show from start to finish. Even despite Carlos Sainz's best efforts and even Charles Leclerc going all the way from the back of the field all the way to finish up in third. Being up, effectively Leclerc gained 11 places in the first 2 laps. So Leclerc was really on it from the beginning. And then Oscar Piastri would get a 10-second penalty for causing a collision with Franco Colapinto in the Williams after he locked it up and made contact with him. You can say it's accidental all you want. The FIA is cracking down, proving that they're not just cracking down on just Verstappen. It's on everybody, too. Beep! Saying Lewis Hamilton also worked his way up through the field, even getting on a fresher tire advantage by just staying out longer than everybody, and then getting a tire advantage at the end to pass teammate Russell to get 4th. And that's big, too, because Hamilton ends up finishing ahead of Russell in the Drivers' Championship. But even despite Ferrari's best efforts finishing 2nd and 3rd, it was not enough to beat McLaren and Lando Norris. As Lando Norris, of course, went on and led the race from flag to flag. And Lando really had no challenge throughout this race. As Lando Norris goes on and wins in Abu Dhabi, gets his 4th win of the season. And that 4th win, and then Piastri battling all the way back to finish 10th, that would be enough for McLaren to just edge out Ferrari in the Constructors title. Because in the finale, McLaren got 26 points at Abu Dhabi, while Ferrari got 33 points, which means Ferrari gained 7 points on McLaren at Abu Dhabi, but that will not be enough to win the Constructors title, as McLaren in the end will end up edging out Ferrari for the Constructors title by just 14 points. Also an exciting championship battle under a season-long points format and a full crowd for it. Damn, it's like we don't need a gimmick chase format to begin with, and whoever made season-long points formats in the 70s knew what the fuck they were doing. We're not going to say anything about NASCAR's championship format in the 50s and 60s. Those formats were fucking broken. But at least the Latford system that they used from 75 to 2003 was pretty consistent too. I mean, F1s also have some pretty consistent formats too, just after a few kinks and tinkering around. So yeah, McLaren, they get their first Constructors Championship since 1998. So McLaren's championship drought is over after 26 years. The longest gap in F1 between Constructors Championships. That doesn't involve a team leaving at some point in the sport's history, like Mercedes did for a long time. So yeah, even though Lando didn't get the Drivers' Championship this year, he at least gets the consolation prize and still gets a ring in a way, being part of the winning constructor. And Red Bull will end up third. So yeah, Red Bull still ends up third in the Constructors' Championship despite Perez being dog shit all year. I mean, that's what happens when you have a generational talent in Max Verstappen single-handedly carrying your entire team to relevance. But Red Bull will be extremely vulnerable the second half the next season, especially with how that second half of the season's gone, and now they don't have Adrian Newey anymore. But I'll say this, next year's going to be pretty wide open, but Lando, that's a big win for Lando and McLaren, not only to get the Constructors title, but think about next year. Because 2025 is going to be extremely wide open for the championship next year. And that win for Lando is going to be some big momentum to come into it. And also with Lando winning and ends Max Verstappen's winning streak at Abu Dhabi. Ending the streak at 4 straight years that Verstappen won. And keep in mind, when Verstappen won here in 2020, it opened the door for Verstappen's 4 straight championship runs that we've seen now. So could this win potentially be what that kickstart for Lando to go contend for the championship next year and maybe win his first title? You have to tune in to 2025 to find out. But yeah, this will make Lando definitely a hot favorite to come into the championship battle next year in 2025. Some big momentum to take into the offseason with. But yeah, there was really no F1 race ref ball in this or anything. Just simply Ferrari not even any bad Ferrari pitch strategy. Just in the end, Ferrari just didn't do good enough to win the Constructors title. I mean, Ferrari gave it everything they had, but in the end, they just fell short. I mean, at the end of the day, Ferrari, they had 24 races to get as many points as possible and not put them in a position, and its position enter in Abu Dhabi. And in the end, they failed to take advantage of it. You know, at the end of the day, you should never enter the finale trailing in the championship, and you should never have to rely on outside help to win a championship. And in the end, Ferrari just didn't take advantage of it. I mean, there are a couple instances this season where I say they could have made up 14 points on McLaren. I think a couple bad calls at Montreal and Silverstone where they could have made up those points when they screwed Leclerc over a couple times on strategy. But, hey, Ferrari, they did everything they could. They just fell 14 points short. Oof. So, yeah, congrats to McLaren and all the McLaren fans like Ian Perez and Areva and all the McLaren fans out there, well-deserved Constructors title by McLaren. They deserved it. They've had a really great surge the second half of the year, especially when Red Bull started faltering off. It looked like Red Bull was going to run away with it with Verstappen the first half of the year, and then McLaren and Ferrari emerged along with Mercedes as well. But 2025 is going to be a very wide open season. We'll have to see how vulnerable Max Verstappen is, or will Verstappen find a way to win his 5th championship. I mean, 2 of Verstappen's 4 titles, he didn't have the best car, and this year was one of those years. But, 2025 is going to be a very interesting season. 2025 is gearing up to be a very good season. Definitely, I think 2025, I think we could see the championship go all the way down to Abu Dhabi. Will it have the ref ball like it had in 2021? We'll have to tune in to find out. But yeah, even though it's the off season now, keep in mind, it's only 98 days until the next 2025 F1 season begins all the way down in Bahrain. But yeah, another F1 season officially in the books. Lando wins the race and clinches the Constructors title for McLaren, ending McLaren's long drought. Ferrari falls short. And based on Lewis Hamilton's comeback season this year, who knows? Maybe Lewis Hamilton might have a little something left in the tank when he goes to Ferrari next year. Could Lewis Hamilton maybe have an 8th championship run still left in him? Or maybe will it end in disaster? We'll have to tune in to find out. That's the beauty of motorsports. You don't truly know what's going to happen until it does happen. That's why it's very unpredictable. But yeah, and this is also the final race recap of the season for me, as F1 was the last motorsport that I was covering that gets a coverage, and this is the last race of the season. So yeah, now the off-season really begins until the modified season begins up in February, the night before Super Bowl 59 up in New Smyrna. So yeah, and yes, I will be covering F1 next year. Like the motorsports I'll be covering full-time for sure next year are ARCA, Modifieds, the Canada Series, Euro Series, IndyCar, and F1. Those 6. Cup, Xfinity, and trucks I'm only covering on a part-time basis until NASCAR actually gets their fucking shit together. Or at least brings in the championship format or at least until NASCAR makes a championship format that actually crowns the best driver throughout the season champion. And hey, you can complain about Verstappen clocking the title up 2 races early. He's still a more worthy champion than Logano. And also Abu Dhabi. In Abu Dhabi, they had 190,000 fans in attendance, with Verstappen locking up the championship 2 races early. Oh, but nobody would care or go to races with the championships locked up 2-3 races early. Well, F1 says, hold my beer. But then again with F1, that's what happens when you actually market the fucking sport and actually grow it. Something NASCAR has failed to do over the years. Like, NASCAR has tried, but their efforts haven't resulted the same as F1. Especially in the TV ratings-wise. Maybe someday NASCAR will fucking figure it out. Someday, but I have my doubts with the leadership in charge. And even despite some of F1's issues, at least they have stability in the long run. Something NASCAR wished they had. Just F1 needs to clean a few things up and get better competition. But maybe the competition thing is gearing up to be fixed up in 2025. We'll have to see when we get the Bahrain. But yeah, 24 races down have been complete, the longest season in F1 history. And now it's time for the off-season relax. So yeah, see you all later. And in terms of race recaps, I'll see you all for Modifieds in New Smyrna in February. I'm out.